I guess where I'm really curious is like, there's sort of two, if you're just looking at the internet, right? There's sort of two camps. And the camps are the companies wanting to have productive employees and wanting to be able to maintain control of this ever increasingly remote and sprawling workforce, right? That's all around the world instead of all in one office. And employees who are like, I don't want, everything I do to be hyper tracked and micromanaged and be put in this position where I feel like I can't even be trusted to work, remote and get my job done. And there's all this weird stuff happening in between where companies are putting like software on people's computers that take pictures of them every 5 minutes to make sure that they're at their desk and things like that. Where do you think, let's start with the companies. Where do you think companies are going wrong in building relationships and building trust with employees and kind of allowing them to be able to be autonomous, but also engaged? Let's just start with that one. What do you think?
Well, when you talk about tracking, this is where I get a little bit cringy. I think sensor technology, which is, 15, 20 years old technology that has been just exploded. It's why GPS became what it is. Before we had sensors, we couldn't do anything like that. We couldn't have Wave, we couldn't have Google Maps. It's highly useful things, right? This kind of technology. But when the technology starts to invade the personal space, I get kind of cringy. When I worked at an office, even years ago, say 10 years ago, I was very mindful to, not put anything personal in work emails, to not do anything that would be suspect, to not look at questionable websites while I was at work, because I knew, having worked in the mobile security and in the network security space, I knew what could be measured and managed even back then. But to think about it now, and it is coming into play, people that are taking these remote jobs actually are being monitored, just like you said. And it's not like they're saying, oh, well, you're being monitored, and they're telling you, well, be aware of every little thing you're doing. But it's how they can calculate how much time you've spent on training, how much time you spent on time with the customer. It's the way that they get at all that rich data that the marketers want, right? If you can measure all of that. But I get a little cringy with that. And I wonder sometimes, who's looking at all this data? Like, are we collecting a lot of it and we're looking at 5% of it? What are we really using it for? Are we just measuring it because we can? I personally would like to think that, give me my book of business, whatever that is, whatever my business is. Let's select the goals and objectives, and I will deliver, and we'll have weekly meetings, and we'll have the collaboration where needed. And then we'll meet our quarterly objectives as a company, just like before, taking something that we've always done and doing it now. So I'm not in that camp where a remote worker has to wear a badge and be looking into the computer and can't be away from their computer for too long, as if being, on with your sketchbook or whatever isn't considered work.
Right.
It's like all that white space time is where the brilliance happens, and that walk around the block, even if it's for an hour, is where all the ideas just popped into your head. So I think, I'm a creative person. So don't constrain me, and don't constrain anybody like that.
Yeah, because it can start to be counterproductive, right? Like you're trying to manage everything, but you're also breaking trust with your employees, and then they don't want to be there, and then maybe they leave. And retention is also a really big key factor to think about. So it's a real balancing act, and these companies, like you said, are experimenting. They're trying to figure it out too. So maybe they overstep, but then they pull it back because people are like, no, stop doing this, right? And I think that's where we shift the focus to the employee or the job seeker, who there's a lot of stuff on the internet that's like, stand up for yourself and know what you want and get what you deserve and all these different things. And I think that these are really important for us to internalize. Like, yes, you need to stand up for yourself. Yes, you need to get out of toxic work environments. You need to know what you need going in so you don't get kind of walked over. but I can also see it kind of going too far at times, where it tends to create arrogant or overconfident, like people who don't know their bargaining position, job seekers, where they're bargaining from a place where it's like, actually, at the end of the day, you don't have a say on that. Like if they need you in the office, you've got to go in the office. You can't just like say no, you know? I'm curious what your thoughts are on the types of messages we're giving to job seekers and what maybe a realistic balance would be in how to think of yourself as an employee or as a job seeker working with a company trying to experiment with these things.
Well, I'll use the marketing example because you and I both talk marketing, talk that language. So if you, as a job seeker or as an employee, treat yourself like a marketer, which I think is really wise, marketing and sales are really great mindsets for being in the workplace, is your market, who do you have to please? Who do you have to serve? Who do you serve? Guess what? It's about them, right? You are here to serve the people that you work with, your boss, and you are here to serve and understand what your customers need. Now, to the extent that you can bring your true self, your creativity, your ideas, and your clever navigation skills and your negotiation, yes, that's going to help you stand out. That's what we do in branding, but it is not about you. I have a program called The Art of the Start, How to Crush Your First 90 Days. And this is about meeting the needs. Like, what are the quarterly objectives of your boss, your manager? If you don't know that within the first week, you're not asking the right question. You need to understand how your management is measured so that you can construct your goals and objectives around that, because when they look good, you look good. So they are a market, and it becomes, if you've done the right job of finding the right fit and, interviewing well and, liking the people and understanding the culture, then it's going to work out. And then you won't feel, justified to say, I want more, and, they're not hearing me, because you will have done that work on the front end.
Yeah. And it almost feels like people are coming into the job search with a chip on their shoulder already. And it's like, wait, we gotta reverse this mindset a little bit to, I'm here to help. And if you can't afford my help, then that's fine. I can move on to the next company.
Sure.
But like, there is this sort of odd kind of dynamic that develops where, I think folks get really worked up. And, I've got your book right here. With the Agile Career.
You're so kind.
And everyone should go check it out. And I feel like agility, and I want to bring that idea in here because it's not about, am I working remote or am I in person? Am I hybrid? Am I, this or am I that? It's like, no, we need to go in flexible. And I think that flexibility enables us to roll with punches, to roll with policy changes. Folks who have been practicing agility for years, when the pandemic hit, they already had a workspace at home ready to go because they were ready for any kind of environment, or maybe it wasn't already built, but they could get it up and running quickly because they weren't going, why do I have to do this? Right? Like, that sort of, why do I have to deal with this kind of mindset, I think gets in the way, both on the company side and on the individual side of like, we almost make our lives and our jobs more difficult by saying things should be a certain way, or the job search is broken. It shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't have to do 6+ interviews to get this job. And the fact that this company's making me do it is total BS. Like, all of a sudden now you're going to ruin your chance of getting that job because you've completely shifted your mindset from being helpful to having a chip on your shoulder. And I'm curious, what are your thoughts on an individual basis? We've just gone through this crazy year and a half. We're now going through probably another decade of companies experimenting and trying to figure things out. how do we keep ourselves positive, or at least like flexible and agile with everything coming up?
Let's step back to the word chip on your shoulder. I would frame that, and it's actually framed in the context of your business, Martin, or the name of your business, career therapy, right? So when something doesn't work in your career, and let's be honest, we've all had time periods when things just don't work. I don't care who you are, it happens to all of us. We're bruised, we're hurt, we're just very sad. And, some people, get to the point of being depressed because they couldn't figure it out. So we're entering into this job search with a piece of us that's somewhat missing. And, a lot of job search coaches and career coaches and executive coaches say, it's really about healing the individual. We're not the psychology therapists, but many times we feel like it because people are hurting and they've got to get beyond that hurt. And sometimes that means talking about it for 50 hours or 20 hours with friends and relatives and anybody who will listen about how bad something was, getting it out of your system and feeling whole again. And it's hard to go from being let go and then just do job search on the following Monday.